Broadcasting across the country and around the world, from Sin City in Las Vegas, Nevada, join Moose and PowerSerg as we prove that age is truly just a number and the best life is yet to come. Grab a seat, pour yourself a drink, and dare to live on 50 Shades of Great. Welcome back to another episode, 50 Shades of Great, the real Radio Moose, with my partner in crime, my executive producer and co-host, PowerSerg. And PowerSerg, you're in a special place today, aren't you?
I am. This is a mobile 50 Shades of Great. I am in the great country of Mexico, Mexico City.
As many of you know, I've been very close to Mexico, grew up on the border in San Diego. First clubs I ever went to, we can talk about that a little bit, when I turned 18 was, down in Tijuana. And, my son is a dual Mexican-American citizen, and I've spent many times down in Mexico, and usually not the tourist areas. So at the end of this show, or by the end of this show, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you 5 tips that are super important if you are planning a trip to Mexico, and especially if you're going to be outside of the tourist areas, which I actually highly recommend. Go experience the culture, and we're going to tell you it's not as dangerous as you would think. It's not as scary as you would think, but there are a few tips that you want to pay attention to. So starting it off, again, the real Radio Moose and executive producer, the real PowerSerg.
And we'll get to my story. I'm going to tell you the story of my trip to Mexico, but I will say this. To start the show, I'll say this. It's really important. Yeah, the reason that I'm in Mexico and the reason I'm traveling is I travel every year for my birthday. This is, again, going back to the way I'm living my life in my 50s. In my 30s and 40s, I lived for someone else. I lived for my family. I lived for my son. I was a single dad. I supported my first ex-wife. I supported my second ex-wife. And then now my son is grown, right? I'm divorced for the second time. I'm happy, and I'm doing exactly what I want to do. And that includes travel. Dare to live. And that includes travel. So every year for my birthday, I always leave to go somewhere. I celebrate
Happy
2
birthday,
birthdays.
by the way. Sorry I didn't open with that.
54,
nice
baby.
Woo, 54.
Woohoo.
Gosh.
So,
but look
so
at you, 54 years old. You're living better than you were when you were 34. You know what I mean? It's taking advantage of the life. I was just reading something today in Men's Health that was talking about how 37 is actually the new middle age. And it's crazy to think about that, isn't it? I mean, 37 being middle age, and a lot of the DMs that we've gotten and emails that we've gotten as we've started this, this venture into giving men that permission slip to live their best life and dare to live 50 Shades of Great. A lot of the feedback we're getting are from men in their late 20s, early 30s, mid 30s saying, hey, man, this applies to me too. So knock it off with the 50 all the time. And no, we welcome you. I mean, this is for anybody and everybody. And if you can start planning to live your best life at any moment of your life, that's the thing about life. You never know when that life, unfortunately, might end. So live your best life. Dare to live. Even if you're 32 right now with small kids, dare to live. Go out there. Don't make it be to the point where you got to catch up like we're trying to catch up.
And with a lot of our listeners, right, it's hard to plan very far in advance because we're all busy, right? We have careers. Taking vacation is hard. Like I'm in a client services business, so are you. So it's hard to just unplug. So I don't know what next month is going to be like. I don't know what Thanksgiving is going to be like. I know what this week is going to be like. I barely know what this week is going to be like, but I have an idea. So on Monday, I decided, you know what? It's my birthday. I'm going to go someplace. So I celebrate 2 birthdays. I celebrate my Gregorian calendar birthday and my Jewish calendar birthday. And so in between the 2, I usually travel. And so I decided, you know what? I'm just going to go on the road. I found a last-minute ticket for $300 to Mexico. Volaris, not the most luxurious of airlines, but it's
we'll talk about the airlines
flight.
if you want to talk about the airlines.
We'll have an episode specifically on flying, and we'll have some flight attendants, and we'll have some pilots on to talk about the ins and outs of flying. But for me, it was a last-minute decision, right? I don't have to ask permission to go from anyone. I don't have to worry about childcare issues. All those things are behind me. So I just jumped on a plane at 5 o'clock at night and got to Mexico at 9. And I found, unlike normal, I found a cute little hotel. Mm-hmm. And this cute little hotel is in a great little historic area. And in this great little historic area, the new Mexican president is about to move into, right? The first female president in the history of Mexico. and they shut down the entire neighborhood. And when I
Yeah.
say they shut it down, from 10 o'clock last night
So you
to
didn't do all your homework.
midnight, I didn't do any of my homework, right? And
Yeah, you
so
just jumped on the plane. Yeah. Dare to live. Let's go.
And the photos look great. And I'll post the photos, and I'll post the photos of the hotel. You can take a look at it. It's cute. It looks a lot like Cuba. It's sort of historical colonial architecture, right? And it's great. And it's a Marriott property, and everything will be fine. I left yesterday afternoon at 4:30 to go meet a friend in Polanco, the area I normally stay in. Besides the fact by the way, Mexico City traffic is the worst traffic I've ever seen.
Yeah, same.
California, LA has nothing on it.
Right.
Moscow has nothing on it.
I was down in Mexico City a few years ago. The Chargers and the Chiefs played. The NFL. I like the fact we talked about the NFL being my religion. I love the fact that they've expanded internationally now. So a friend and I went down to actually see the Chargers and the Chiefs play in Mexico City, and it was beautiful. Wow. I mean, I spend most of my time either in Baja California, which touches San Diego. That's where Tijuana is, and Cabo San Lucas. And then, but most of it, like my ex is from Jalisco. So a lot of the places in Jalisco, Puerto Vallarta, Guadalajara, and then she's from, my son and the family, they're from a place called Tepatitlan, which has a lot of different culture that's tied into that. But I got to tell you, you just said something that I think people really need to pay attention to is the fact that, you know what? You were talking about the wall. You were talking about them getting ready for this inauguration. You're talking about, and this is the first thing I want to say about Mexico is, you know what? Do you travel? The same travel advisories that we get from don't go to Mexico, I get the same thing for Chicago. I get the same thing from Detroit, St. Louis.
Absolutely.
I mean, all these other cities within our own country, and you're missing out on the beauty because of the psychological fear that they've put into you that there's something wrong with Mexico.
Right. So that's the thing. So this is a story. So anyway, so I leave at 4:30 in the afternoon from this hotel. The streets do get shut down. There's thousands of cops because the cathedral right across the street. It's historic. The Presidential Palace and where she's going to get inaugurated. That plaza is right there. And so I leave the hotel. It's fine. I walk across the plaza. I catch my Uber. I go to Polanco. I have an amazing time. And the other thing too about Mexico is that the Polanco looks like Beverly Hills, but a drink is $6.
Right.
Dinner cost me for two people. Dinner cost me $28, including
and that's
cocktails.
You're actually in a semi-tourist area there. Which if you like a West Side, so when I went down to Jalisco, I prefer not to go to the tourist areas. As you know, I was the chief security officer on a cruise ship for a long time, been a lot of different ports around the world, spent a lot of time in Mexico. And I'll tell you what, my least favorite place to go in Mexico is Cancun. I think it is that and Cabo San Lucas. And I'm not trying to take away from those.
Hold on. But Tulum, right? Cancun
That's my point.
Is your window to Tulum, my point. Right?
That's my point.
Your window to Playa del Carmen. By the way, great medical care in Tulum. We'll have a different story to talk about.
Yeah, we'll have a story about what happened at PowerSerg. But yeah, so what I'm saying there is that when you look at that and you go, man, I really can't afford to go to Cancun. I really can't afford to go to Puerto Vallarta. Go to Nuevo Vallarta.
Don't.
You can get there and it's going to be, and here's the other thing is you're supporting local. And when you go down into Mexico, if you really want to experience the culture, and again, stay tuned here because I'm going to give Serge 5 tips from Real Radio Moose on what he should and should not do while he's down in Mexico. 3 of them involve the restroom, so that's important. You want to stay tuned for that. But you've got to get local. If you want to go down there and you want to be on a budget, but you want to, I dare to live. I want to go to Mexico. I want to go experience those waters. I want to go experience the culture. I want to experience the food. All amazing things. I mean, Mexico, obviously, near and dear to my heart. Born and raised in San Diego. My whole life I've spent. I mean, we're almost we used to be Mexico, right? A lot of people, they didn't cross the line. The line crossed them. So the whole culture, the one thing I will say is I want to double down on something you just said is when you're going out there and you decide you want to go, take a look at the place that the place that your friends went on that cruise, the place that your friends went for their honeymoon or whatever the case, and then open up that map to about a 50-mile radius and see what else is around there. There are a lot of really nice inclusive resorts. There are a lot of water sports. There's things you can do. I know in Guadalajara, which is down in Jalisco, we have Tequila Jalisco. You go out to Tequila Jalisco, and there's these perceptions of Mexico that just aren't true. Like when people think about drinking tequila, right? If I said Jose Cuervo, what's your first thought, Sergio?
I mean, it's it's the
Trash.
Walmart of tequilas.
Walmart of tequila. If you go to Mexico, Jose Cuervo has one of the top tequilas in Mexico, down in the Familia cellar that they serve you, and they teach you how to drink. The train that you pick up downtown in Guadalajara goes out to Tequila Jalisco, to the actual place where you experience the exact same. Yes, this is one of those things. It's going to cost you $100.
Yeah,
$100 to get on that train.
100%. But I will say, Mexico has both efficiency and not efficiency. So last night at this hotel, I just showed you pictures of it. Right, it's Circulo Mexicano. It's an amazing hotel. Right, and it's really cute. It's all traditional Mexican. I walk out of my hotel at 4:30. Everything is fine. I come back at 10 o'clock. There is a wall. Take a look at this photo. There's a wall of just metal wall that they build in between 4:30 p.m. and 10 p.m. when I get there. And I walk around this wall and I see absolutely no way to get through. I talk to the cops. There's no way to get through. There is absolutely nothing that I can do. I call the hotel.
This happens.
I call the hotel and they're like, "We're not sure, sir. There should be police stationed at a break in this wall." And a policeman at a different site walks me. It takes 25 minutes for us to walk around this wall. It's completely solid. There's no doors, no nothing. So I call the hotel staff again. And the general manager of the hotel, and hold on, I want to give a shout out to this guy, right? His name is Hicham. And Hicham, who is the general manager of this hotel, he's actually manages 2 hotels in this chain, both Marriott affiliate properties. He says, "We're going to come look for you." So literally,
what did he mean by that?
By the way, it's pouring rain. It's pouring rain in the middle of the night. The cops don't know how to get through the walls either, because the cops on the outside of the wall are different than the division that's inside the wall, right? And eventually, I go to another hotel, sit down in the lobby, and I call Hisham, and I said, "Look, I'm not moving from here. Come get me." And 30 minutes later, they come find me, and we walk through. And in this wall, there's a gate. Nobody knows there's a gate. It's not marked. There's no sign from the outside, but inside you can see that it's a door. So we open the door and we walk in, right? So props to the hotel staff that took the initiative to come out and get me. And by the way, the service in Mexico is nothing like you'll experience in the U.S.
No,
right?
It's amazing.
It's amazing, right? The food here has been great. The hotel,
all the sidewalks smell like Fabuloso, but it's clean. It's a lot cleaner too. A lot of people don't understand. Like in Mexico, Mexican culture, people take pride. People take pride in their house. They take pride in front of their house. They clean the sidewalk in front of their house. But you've got to get down local. You've got to get to that culture. Now, Serge, here, so you're in a Marriott property in a tourist area, Mexico City, and I say at the same time, kind of a walking contradiction here, because you do need to make sure that if you are going to get local, that you understand where you can and can't go, what you can and can't do. And I'm going to tell you, my first piece of advice is if you are going to get local in Mexico, either have a little bit of Spanish dialect in your toolbox, or be with somebody who can speak Spanish. I mean, my son is fluent. You're 0. I'm between the two of you.
So, zero. So you know what I used? Oh, jokes aside, you know what I used last night to communicate with the cops? Because nobody spoke English. Google Translate. Amazing.
But the only problem is for some reason you can't get signal, and the Google Translate won't work. I will say that there are situations like that. Like here's the thing I'm going to tell you. It doesn't cost much, and there are so many scams. One of the biggest places where you're going to get in trouble, don't rent a car in Mexico. Just take the taxi. They even have Uber in Mexico now. A lot of people don't know that. But
that's how I'm getting around is by Uber.
Yeah, and Mexico City, though, is one of those places where it's touristy, but you can go 3 blocks in the wrong direction, and you're in a tough time because I could share a lot of stories of things that have happened down there. Are you going to go out and visit the pyramids?
Well, not right now. I'm in Mexico City, so it's a little bit far from me. I actually have a quick trip.
It's
But what
45
I am
minutes.
doing is because the neighborhood is shutting down here at 9 o'clock at night, and it's getting the closer we get to inauguration, which is October 1, the worse it gets. I'm actually moving hotels, so I'll share some photos when the podcast goes live. I'll share some photos of my new hotel as well,
Excellent.
also a Marriott property. And look, the reality is travel can be, as much as it was annoying last night, and I literally did not know whether I was going to have to sleep, in the lobby of this other hotel till 9 a.m. when the gates open, or figure out something else. Get a room in another hotel and then get back in the.
Right.
But as much as it was annoying last night, it makes for a great story.
It
I
does make for
think
great.
that I think that the adventure of not knowing exactly what like, I think the adventure travel is great, and frankly, I want to do more of it.
Absolutely. No,
Right?
I love it. I got to a point where when I would go down to Guadalajara, it's about an hour and 15 to get to the town that my son's family, his mom's family's from. It got to the point where, because of work, I couldn't always go down with it. So I ended up going down on my own and having to get to and from. And a lot of times people would come pick me up, but definitely understanding a little bit of the local culture, at least speaking some Spanish, it does definitely help out. But what I'll say is that, everyone always, they ask me, like, I remember one time I was down in Guadalajara and I was going to the airport. And it was at the time that some cartel members had taken over a bus, and there was a bus on fire. And I mean, we kind of
No
passed it.
bueno.
Wait, hold on a second, though. We passed the bus
No
fire thing.
bueno.
No, but we passed the bus. And the guys that had just shot the bus were then like directing traffic to help us get into the airport. I mean, it was like, but it's the same sort of, it's the same sort of things. Like, people always ask me, okay, if I'm going to go down to Guadalajara and I'm going to, walk around, I want to experience things on my own, I don't have a guided tour. That's cool. I'm going to give you the same advice I would give you in the Bronx or South Chicago, or is, dude, don't wear your Rolex. Keep minimal cash on you.
As you can see, I am watch free.
But that's the point. I mean, don't make yourself a target. If you don't make yourself a target, you're not down there being an asshole. Be careful how much you're drinking and know a little bit of Spanish. It's just about showing respect. And I think the biggest thing, especially when I was the chief security officer on a cruise ship and we'd go into different ports, the biggest problem was Americans, man, is because you have this like American arrogance that you go down and you think that you're not in America anymore. Like, you will go to jail without a charge just for looking at someone wrong. You will get your ass kicked. You will get shot.
And by the way, you can go to jail for not doing anything wrong in Chicago and then South Central
Absolutely.
LA too.
Absolutely.
Right? I mean,
but
let's face it.
I'm saying
I
it's a
think
lot more.
same-
Here, let me give you some. I don't want to get political on this, but it's a funny saying that was said to somebody a long time ago. And we were talking about, remember when the Fast and the Furious gun running, the Obama thing, caused the big, Operation Buck Stop or whatever.
Yeah.
So it was going on. We were having this conversation, and she looks over at me and goes, "Hey, look here, gringo. Your government and my government, we are equally corrupt, but in Mexico, we're honest about it." Touche.
And look, the advice for travel is the same, right? So my advice to our audience is do it, right? The world is bigger than your neighborhood and your couch, right?
Have a valid
Get off
passport.
your couch, get a valid passport.
It's going to be valid for a while.
See the rest of the world, and understand that
Right.
you can go live in Tulum, or you can go live in Bali, or you can go live in Bangkok for $450 a month and live like a king, right? Understand that there's possibilities outside the United States.
I was watching a TikTok recently about Hong Kong.
Yeah, I don't know what Hong Kong is like now. I actually have never been to Hong Kong. I've been to Japan and other places, but I've never been to Hong Kong.
$1,000 a month.
I wanted to go
live
for a long time.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but in Bangkok you can live for $400 a month. Now you have to live in Bangkok, but you can live for $400 or $500 a month in Playa de Carmen, which is in between Cancun and Tulum, which is where the ships, the ferries, go to the two islands, Mujeres and Cozumel. and it's gorgeous and it's fun and it's touristy and it's $500 a month. And there's most people there speak English, right? It's really, really great.
If you're talking about moving there, but we're talking about just daring to live, buying the ticket and going.
But if you wanted to move, again, understand that the world is better. And like when you talk about dating and other things, the world is bigger than your neighborhood.
Yes.
The world is bigger than your couch, right?
Open your eyes.
I would say that this, you have to pay attention to the world around you. And people say, well, what is dangerous is this, that. Yes, I'll give you advice. Yeah, don't wear your Rolex, don't flash money, don't be stupid, don't go down dark streets with where there's no people around, stuff like that. But that's the same advice I'd give you in Las Vegas. It's the same advice I'll give you
anywhere.
In Los Angeles, anywhere.
Now I'm going to give you a couple pieces of advice on that international travel, though.
I want to hear 5 pieces of advice from you.
Okay, 5 pieces of advice is coming up. It's good.
That's expert opinion. Cruise ship director, now working primarily in also travel and aviation. You're a security expert. Like the Moose Man has got it. So 5 pieces of advice with national travel from the Moose Man.
That's going to be Mexico advice specifically for you. Let me hit this one thing first.
Advice.
Yeah. So the Mexico advice, my five tips for you in Mexico are coming up. But one thing I want to say is that I got to tell you, no matter where you're going internationally, first of all, you were talking about moving places. People will be shocked to know Canada and Mexico have a much stricter immigration policy than the United States. It is a lot harder to go down to Mexico and not be deported than it is to come to the United States and not be deported.
Really?
Absolutely. Mexico is so strict on the immigration that, and in fact, they even cooperate unless it's a case where, it's like a death penalty case. They cooperate better with extradition. Like Mexico authorities, they help all the time. People think, I'm going to run to Mexico. I mean, having been a former bounty hunter, I loved working with Mexico because Mexico was easy. As long as it wasn't a murder case, because that has the potential of death penalty, and death penalty is unconstitutional in Mexico, they were actually more cooperative. But I'm telling you, the easiest way to get me.
If I'm going on the lam, it's not going to be to Mexico. If I'm going on the lam, you go to a non-extradition country. In my opinion, the best lamb country to go to, Cuba.
There you go. A lot of cigars.
There you go.
But here's the thing. Right.
Cigars, cocktails, and
talking about crossing the border. So one of the biggest stress points when you're traveling international is going in and out of that international border. There is something that has come up in the last 10 years called global entry. Now, global entry is an international travel program tied to your passport where you apply for this program, you go through a vetting process, you go through an interview process, and then you get this global entry for 5 years. And what it does is allows you kind of like a TSA pre-check across the U.S. border and across international borders. This thing also gives you TSA pre-check. So with that number, you also get TSA pre-check. And I'm going to tell you, if you've traveled internationally, especially through like a JFK or an LAX, I've waited up to 2.5 hours, 3 hours to clear customs, especially if you have bags, you're bringing stuff back. I will let you know, Mexico currently, don't get caught. Most guys won't give you a hard time, but it's 1 bottle of tequila per adult. So keep that in mind and just be honest about it. They're really not going to charge you the tariff. Just be honest about it. Be a nice guy going in and out of the border. The biggest problem that I will say is especially U.S. authorities, and I have a lot of friends in Border Patrol and CBP, so I'm not trying to disrespect them, but they have a lot of power. They have a lot more power than the Highway Patrol pulling you over or a local police writing you a ticket or
Highway Patrol. That's AAA with that's AAA with a gun.
Highway Patrol. That's AAA with a gun. I'm telling you. Yeah, you're right. AAA with. You're gonna get all this mail from CHP now.
I don't need my tire. I don't need to change my tire. It's fine.
Yeah. My oil's fine, sir. Thank you. But no, the CBP has the ability just on their feeling about you, not probable cause, not reasonable suspicion, not that entry back into the U.S. And I'll tell you, I was a smartass at 18 years old across the Tecate border. I'll tell you this story, and then I know we're going to wrap up, and I'm going to give you my 5 tips. Don't do in Mexico or do in Mexico. So my buddy and I, 18 years old, we go across the Tecate border. We're coming back, and we actually were working, and we actually were out in the Dulzura Campo area of San Diego County. And so we go over for lunch, and as we're coming back over, at the time there was no passport. You could come over with your driver's license or birth certificate. The guy I thought I was going to be funny, right? 18-year-old smartass. No, not me, not Moose. Moose not a smartass. And so he goes, "What's your nationality?" And I said, "Monday." And he's like, "What?" Like, but it's a respectful what. He goes, "I said, what's your nationality?" I go, "Monday." Within 30 seconds, I'm in handcuffs in a room. Now, I don't know if they can still do this. I sat there for 8 hours, bro. 8 hours. And they're like, "Oh, yeah." I said, "Sir, I was saying Monday." He's like, "Yeah, okay, smart ass." And I learned my lesson. I do not screw with the CBP. I don't care. Unruly passenger, that ain't got shit on the CBP. The CBP will ruin your life. And then all they got to do is open up that computer, put one check mark next to your name. There's no appeal process. There's no way to change it. And you're getting secondary for the rest of your life. Every time you cross that border, you're getting secondary for the rest of your life. So, Sergio, 5 tips in Mexico. Okay, this is from a lot of Hard Knocks. Some learn the good way, some learn the hard way. First of all, you've heard this your whole life. Don't drink the water. Only drink bottled water. However, what people don't think about.
And what people don't think about is brush your teeth with bottled water. Go ahead. Sorry.
Exactly. Well, that was one of my pieces of thunder there. So part of that one about not drinking the water. But here's the other thing they don't think. A lot of times you're walking along the street. Street vendors are out of control. They're all over the place. The food and drink is amazing. You only have chorro, which I think you can probably figure out what that word means. You only have it for like your first 2 days and your body acclimates to it. But a lot of times they put hielo, which is ice. That ice is the same water. Make sure that if you are having ice in your margarita or in your horchata or whatever you're drinking, is that comes from bottled water. So that's tip number 1. That's going to save you a lot of time off the toilet. The next one is for the men out there. When you go to a restroom door and you see the letter M, do not go in there. That means mujeres. That's woman.
Get out.
Caballeros. C is for men. So if you walk up to those restrooms and you see the M on the door, M in Mexico, don't go in the M door. That one's for you, Serge, because I know that you definitely want to go in there.
Good call.
Next thing,
I need to pay attention.
Now, this doesn't really occur when you're in the tourist areas like the Marriott or the West End, but when you go out to those other cultural cities, which, oh my God, I can't tell you enough to go out and experience the culture of Mexico in the small towns and villages and experience that culture. But if you're going to use the restroom, we're staying on the restroom, make sure you have some pesos. They charge you to use the restroom. And sometimes, even if they don't charge you to use the restroom, they charge you if you want toilet paper. So that's going to be a big one for the ladies, because either way, they need a little bit of toilet paper, right? For us, if you're going in there because you drank that drink that had those ice cubes and now you got the chorro and you find the restroom, you better have some pesos for some toilet paper. That was number 3. Okay?
All right.
Number 4. And if you've grown up in a Mexican community, like in San Diego, I learned this when I was really, really young. And a lot of people, they get weirded out by it. I mean, it's the elephant in the room. Let's just talk about it, especially if your parents or your friends' parents, the baby boomers and the Gen Xers, is the toilet paper. Don't get weirded out when someone does a number 2 and puts the toilet paper in the trash instead of the toilet. The reason being is down in Mexico, the sewage system and the way that they run this, it can't handle all that. It can't handle the product there. So everybody who's been raised in Mexico has always been raised that the little wastebasket next to the toilet is where the paper goes. And don't be that guy, especially in a small town where don't speak Spanish, clog their toilet. Do not be that guy. So
Clogzilla.
Exactly.
Do not be Clogzilla.
And then my last and final thing, we've already kind of talked about this, and I know you're a social guy, you're an outgoing guy, and in Vegas we can get away with that, but just STFU, shut the up. It's just keep your mouth shut. And if you don't have something nice to say or something complimentary to say, just don't say it. Don't talk yourself into problems. Mexico, I tell you what, I did a paper in college one time, and outside of the corruption that's occurred in Mexico for over all these years, it's really sad, because if you look at the geography, the gold, the oil, the tropics, the weather, the people, the culture, the food, I mean, Mexico is one of the most beautiful countries, arguably, in the world. And it's unfortunate that a lot of crime has taken over and a lot of government corruption and stuff like that. But don't let that be the end all be all. I mean, because bottom line is
because it's everywhere.
Yeah, and your chances of something happening to you or getting kidnapped. I mean, unless you're not following one of those rules, like the Rolex and all that is just understand locality, understand where you are, and show some respect.
Don't be stupid.
Those are my 5.
Yeah, don't be stupid. And I think those are good advice. And I think that's good advice to go anywhere. But the reality is, and by the way, the different bathrooms, the M versus C, that's a great advice. I don't remember paying attention to that, but I'm going to now.
You're in a U.S. kind of tourist area. Go 10 minutes outside of downtown Mexico City. I mean, at least in Mexico, they're probably, especially the Marriott, they probably have like the picture of the man and the picture of the woman, whatever it is.
They do.
Yeah, go 10 minutes down the line and you're going to be a little embarrassed. And they're not as, how do I put this politically correct? They're not as forgiving of you walking into the wrong restroom down in small towns in Mexico as they are in Los Angeles or Seattle.
Yeah, I mean, but what I found is that most people, like even the policeman last night, right? It's as much of a struggle. It's raining. He's standing under like a cover thing. He walks out into the rain with me, and thank God I had a raincoat with me. And I will say that everybody's super nice. Everybody's super polite, yeah. And the call to action for our listeners is now that your kids are grown, right? You give yourself permission to enjoy exactly the life you want to enjoy. And some of that is travel. Go see some place you've never been before. Go talk to people you've never talked to. Go experience the kind of things you've only read about or seen on TV. It will change your life. It will change your perspective. You will look at life much different. And also, if you want to talk about dating and other things, all right, go and go out on a date in a foreign country, right? Be smart about it. Make sure that at least there's some language commonalities, right? But see how the rest of the world lives. It will open up your perspective in a much different way than being in Seattle or being
I'm going to give you 2 pieces of advice
on
that.
Or somewhere else.
I'm going to give you 2 pieces of advice on that.
This is the call. So one of us was married to a Mexican national at one time. So I wanted to lead with the Moose Man giving advice on dating Mexican women. Go.
So I'm not going to go, whoa. I'm not opening Pandora's box on that one, man. I'm not doing that. What I'm saying is if you're a single guy and you're down in Mexico. No. We're not touching that one, all right? I don't need all the deals coming after me. And we're good. I'm saying if you're down in Mexico and you want to date women, there's 2 things that I would caution you on what you just said. Number 1, it has to be you meet them in person. And when you meet them in person, the more natural the meeting, the better. Whereas a lot of prostitutes and police and even cartel members, drug dealers are set up at bars. They're set up at hotels. And when you walk in and they see you, you're called the mark, right? So just like in the U.S. And so be careful about that. But finding people, meeting them out on a tour at your hotel, walking around the street in one of the shops. Number 2 is ensure that you stay public. Ensure that you stay in a public place. Ensure that, if you're going to go on a date, don't go in that back alley bar saloon that you don't know until.
And as a safety tip, choose where you're going to go.
Yes.
Choose it versus having the person be the one choosing for you, right?
And check in,
Don't go to your hotel immediately. Just go to a nice restaurant, public area, where you select the place versus somebody says, "Oh, I'll take you to my cigar bar or because so there is a level of targeting of Americans because we have more resources than in some locales, right? So that's very good advice as well.
And the other thing is I know we have red pill, black pill, all this stuff going on right now. Just show some respect. Mexico is a very traditional conservative country. They still are. A lot of chivalry's big down there. The patriarchy runs strong in Mexico. Of course, this is the first female president, but still culturally, the Catholic Church, a very stronghold throughout the country. In fact, a lot of holidays and things that happen within those different cities are based around Catholic holidays and things done in the church. But here's the last and final thought I'm going to leave with you is respect the culture. You go down there, and I tell you what, the other call to action, as especially men in our middle age, some of us going through divorce and having children, a lot of us have, interracial relationships, and we have interracial children. My son he's a both Mexican and American citizen. Be active in that culture. There's so much noise going on right now between this political campaign of two idiots talking about the border. They have no idea. You know what? Turn off that noise and go experience Mexico. Experience the people, experience the culture, experience real Mexico. Don't let the noise, don't let that be propaganda to not want to go down there. Just like being scared. I tell you what, you're born and raised in San Diego. I can name 20 streets right now that I won't go after 7 p.m. being a native, understanding everything, because something bad is going to happen, right? And that's the same thing. And so what I mean by saying that is that respect that culture, embrace that culture, and remember, you're not in the United States. Here, we cater to everybody. Down there, no. Try and speak some Spanish. They actually appreciate it. They appreciate when you try and speak some Spanish. When you try and make them come to your level, like, oh, I'm an American, I speak English, you should try and cater to me. I'm buying in your shop. You know what? Screw you. You're in the wrong place. Don't go down to Mexico and disrespect. Like, you don't want to be.
I got my Spanish. Dos tequilas, por favor. No hablo español. And
¿Dónde está el baño? You got that one down.
That's it.
Yeah. And I'm telling you, though, is Mexico's one of the few places where even being with people who don't speak the language and understand the culture, is they want to share that with you. Like, they want to help you get through that. So that was my final thought. Follow the 5 rules if you're in Mexico. Mexico's a beautiful place to go. It's beautiful culture.
And it's close, right? The other benefits of Mexico. It's close.
Flights are cheap.
Very affordable. Flights are cheap. The cost of living here is very cheap. So if you want to stretch the dollar, right, you absolutely can do it in Mexico. Get off your couch, get on a plane, and go live your best life.
Right.
Moose?
I hear, and I'll tell anybody who's watching, if you want to DM me on the Real Radio Moose on my IG, I've got contacts and people that I use for transportation in Guadalajara, in Cancun, in Cabo San Lucas, and some of those other places. And if you want to know something about little cities around those tourist areas to get outside of that tourist trap, if you will, that a lot of that tourist trap, is American dollars funded anyway. So reach out to me. I'll be more than happy to share that.
And we'll post some of that. We'll post some of that on our socials. We'll post some of your advice and some things about the local cities to tie into this episode and to tie into our episodes that are coming up on travel.
Excellent. Well, PowerSerg, safe travels. Enjoy your time down in Mexico City. You're definitely living your best life, and we're going to go out and live our best life. You go live yours. Have a great day.
The show doesn't stop there. Join the movement on IG, 50 Shades of _great, or go to our website, 50shadesofgreat.com.